Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the case may be, wherever you're tuning in from to this live stream of RedFellas. RedFellas, probably the first day of summer, guys. Is it really summer? Well, it's summer for me, as you guys can see, because when this comes out, when this baby comes out and reveals itself to the world, then you know it's summer. No more silly hats, no more community hats, no more war hats. It's time to get out the bald eagle himself. That's when you know it's summer. That's when you know. But we are here. It may be summer, winter, wherever you are. Let us know actually what the season is, wherever you're tuning in from. Wherever the season is, let us know. Is it winter? Is it autumn? Is it spring? What are the words? What are summer, spring, and thing? What are they called? Seasons. Do seasons even exist anymore? Like, I believe it's all mixed up now, man. Is there really such a thing as seasons? Keith, you're nodding your head. Is there such a... I find it all mixed up.
Not at all. Not in the UK, there's not. Today's sunshine, you go into the shade for 5 minutes and you'll see that the sunshine goes away. So, yeah. There was hailstones in Jordan, by the way, and floods in the Middle East. And that's in the Middle East, yeah.
Well, that's a segue
into Arabia this year.
That's a segue into telling us where you was. Obviously, you're showing off again. Where was your latest adventure? Of course. So now we have to ask you, where have you been? You know, you got your shirt out, half your chest showing, and all that business.
Well, you said it like you said. It's summer, right? So you know the bald head is shining, the chest hair's out. I'm just. I got the memo, clearly. I got the memo. No, my partner's from the Middle East. She's from Jordan, so she has family there. Amazing. And they were sending pictures. They had like hailstones so big, they were literally just like putting dents into cars, and they were having floods. Like it was crazy. It looked like the end of time. So, yeah, if no one knew that happened, check it out on Twitter. It's crazy.
People, as David says, like on your way in. You already know the deal. Bailey says, big up, smash the likes and get Grizz to 30K. Get Football Khanage to 30K, because this channel is being sensational and the growth is down to everyone. So don't get Grizz to 30K, get Football Khanage to 30K. Tremendous effort from me and of course the rest of the lads. Much love, much respect. I think we're about 100 away, just over 100 away. It would be amazing if we could do it on today's show. If not, no problem. We'll wait. We're a patient bunch, just like LFC. What full house? Yeah. I thought I'd get all the boys in. We'd do a full season appraisal of the players, and see what we think, who deserves what and who deserves not, as the case may be. Anybody else got anything else to reveal or exclusives? Steve, you okay? Conroy, you okay? Errol, you're eating something. Kindly share with us what you're eating. It looks kind of fruity.
Just some round trees, bro. Some fruit.
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. Fruity.
You ever get that, like, sometimes where you haven't had something for ages and then you go back to it once and then
you get addicted to it for the one.
Go-to. I hadn't had these. These were in my nan's the other day. My nan's got like a sweet jar, and these were a part of the sweet jar. And I was like, I haven't had them for years. And then anytime I pull up on a shop now and I see them, I'm like, right, I'm grabbing a bag. That's my little snack.
Steve, have you got anything that you because me and you probably a bit old school. Like, is there like a cereal for us? I'm just being honest.
Cocoa Pops.
I'm just being honest. Is there a cereal that we haven't tried in a little while, and then we think, oh, that cereal, that's quite nice, and then we have the same one for about a week?
It's funny you should say that, because I was in Costco last weekend, and I was like, look at this massive box of Weetabix for like £3. So we're all on Weetabix now, mate, whether you like it or not. There's about 900 in the cupboard, so yeah, it's Weetabix. But on the Errol theme, mate, I do like jelly beans. I'm partial to jelly beans. If I see them in the shop, I have to have them.
Unbelievable.
Do they have the food courts in UK Costco where you can get like really like inexpensive fresh food?
Yeah, like you get like a hot dog that's about that big for £1 with a drink.
Yeah.
Seriously, pizzas that this big. Don't even get on the screen. Look at that. And you can't eat them all, and it's amazing food.
I was just making sure that y'all had that same benefit, because we have it here, and I just love to go to the food court and eat like a king for $5. It's a great feeling.
Is that how it works, guys? Don't give me ideas like that, Evan.
No, it's Grizz. It's ridiculously cheap, and the portion sizes are ridiculous.
Well,
It's
Grizz, you ain't got a
fantastic.
Costco card.
I used to, 100%. I used to, but I think
Oh,
like you have to renew it every 2 years. I think
right,
something like that. I haven't got one anymore because I sold my previous businesses. Now I'm a full-time social media superstar, stroke
ITK.
YouTuber, ITK, stroke bullshit, stroke all of that. You know, just stroke. So yeah, but a Costco card is needed. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, Ev's got me. Is there a Costco in Scotland, or is that offensive? Have I said something really stupid and naive there? Because I know you will hit me if I have.
No, there's Costco. I've not been for years. I don't have a Costco card either. So that seems to be a next chapter in life. Maybe when I hit 30, get a Costco card. But it does seem to be bargain central. But it's definitely people who are organized with their life, like prep to buy in advance if there's an apocalypse or survive. They're ready to go. And yeah, there is. But for me, I think you talk about like kind of reasonable prices. I always think of IKEA. It's a furniture. You got the furniture place, IKEA. You got all the stuff for the house, but then you can get like meatballs or a massive hot dog for like £3, £3. So they're pretty good.
IKEA do a wicked breakfast section where you can actually go upstairs and have breakfast. Yeah,
they got the Swedish meatballs. That's what they're known for.
Swedish meatballs.
It's very good. It's very good. I saw a video the other day, but I realized I can't speak on this about it. I think it was viral about they were doing a certain activity. And you don't see it coming, but they're actually doing this activity in IKEA. I'll send you it after the video. But it's just that's a very, I think it's kind of a British, it's probably not a British culture thing, but just like you go to IKEA, when you're younger, like the family's taking you there, and the only thing you're looking forward to, they kind of bribe you with, we'll give you a hot dog or meatballs just to get through the slog of going through the place. That's usually my memory towards IKEA.
Hot dog and meatballs. Enough of this. Stop it.
Okay.
You're making me hungry. As Captain Sal says, well, he says it. Grizz is getting hungry. You know what I mean? I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry for food. I'm getting hungry for transfers, just like the rest of us. I'm getting hungry for Liverpool information. Oh, by the way, Evan, you look funny. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm really apologizing for Evan for not adding him into the tweet, like his tag. Completely forgot, but I made up for it by announcing a special guest, which is Evan.
I was hoping the meatball chat would continue for a few more minutes so that comment would get buried and we could just move on.
Okay, I'll take you off. Okay, I'll take you off.
It's okay. Listen. I know I'm known for various forms of facial hair. It is what it, but I have this rule where if I'm trimming, manicuring the beard or the mustache, like my hand slips and I mess up, and I don't do the back and forth of trying to salvage something. I just start fresh. So my hand slipped last week, trimmed off too much. I said, screw it. Start fresh, and I feel horrible. I feel horrible about it, but it's okay because
I've used that hand slip one so many times, brother. So many times. DJ GLR says Errol looks serious. Some 3s and 4s on the way for sure. If people remember Errol's sort of conclusions on Naby Keita were supposed to be harsh, but he actually melted by the end, and he actually spoke semi glowingly. So don't ever let Errol's looks deceive you, guys. First and foremost, before we get into the content side of things and stop the chatting shit about meatballs and God knows well, IKEA and all kinds of shit. We have announced to make your FUT card is not only sponsors of RedFellas, they are the channel sponsors now. And going into the next season, or next year, I should say, go and check out our official sponsors, yourfutcard.com. You already know the drill. You already know what to do. Beautiful, beautiful new designs and presentations, banners, flags coming out. You can even request anything you want. So, for example, if you're I don't know what you'd be doing on today's show, but if you're a Karim Benzema fan, and you want a Karim Benzema print, for example, then go check them out. Ask them how to get it, and they will help you out. There's a Ronaldinho one there. I don't know who this guy is. We don't talk about Man United players on this channel, but yeah. Oh, there's that bald I'm not going to call him a fraud because I think he's a wonderful, wonderful manager, but I wish he'd fucked off. But yeah, go check out our sponsors. If you go to the checkout and type in RedFellas 15, you get 15% discount on top of everything else. So make sure, don't forget, yourfutcard.com is your go-to place for banners, prints, and all football cards. Gentlemen, the season has ended. We feel a bit relaxed. No more tension, no more worrying about X, no more worrying about Y, no more worrying about Z. We've had a few days, in fact, a week, to contemplate some of the performances, or lack of, as the case may be, of some of our squad and some of our players. So I bring you all together to try to come to some form of common ground in terms of where we rank them, where we rate them. Please don't judge too much about my graphical work, but there is none. I just basically nicked it from Tier Maker, and you already know the rest is quite simple. I have managed to think of fitting them all the rankings and numbers in as well by the side. 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10. All the players are there, except one notable absentee, and I'm sure the chat will pick up on who's missing. First one to spot that gets a shout out from me on all my social medias, retweet, I'll even follow you, all of that good stuff. So let's see, get me to 30k, that would be amazing. Yep, I'd subscribe twice if I could, David says. All right, let's do this, guys. I guess shall we start in the order of the players that are there? I guess that's quite simplistic enough, right? Steve, I'm going to come to you. And Tsimikas, the Greek Scouser.
Yeah, okay. For me, Tsimikas, difficult for him because he's an understudy to Robertson, clearly. The new system in the second half of the season suits Robertson slightly better than it suits Tsimikas for me. It's an interesting one with him. I don't know if this summer he's going to get itchy feet and decide his future lies elsewhere, because by rights he should be a first choice left back in a football team week in, week out. What we're doing changes the sort of dynamics for him, and it's clearly going to be Robbo. So in terms of his season, never really let us down when he's played, but never set the world on fire with any particular wonderful performances. So I'm going to put Kostas Tsimikas in a 4 to a 6 rating for me, because I can't point to a game when he was dreadful, and I can't point to a game when he was absolutely magnificent. So 4 to 6 is somewhere around average. So that's where I'm going to stick him.
How are we going to do it? Instead of going round and round for each player, we're going to ask for any agreement or disagreement, and we go with the consensus. So if there's any disagreements, speak now or forever keep your silence. I shall put him into that list. Or anybody wants to comment.
I think that's fair.
And
I think it's fair, yeah.
3 second silence was enough for me. The reason why I done a 3 second silence because I was coughing, and I was hoping someone's going to talk while I'm coughing. But all you punks out there didn't do nothing. But all right, Tsimikas goes to 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Chat, keep your comments coming in. Let us know what you think. Stefan Bečić is missing. Revenite, you are the one.
I think we're also missing Firmino and Gakpo.
No, Firmino is there. I can see his teeth from here.
What about Gakpo?
Gakpo is missing as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what we're going to do instead, we're going to be inventive. We're going to use our creative forces. And what we're going to do, we're going to pretend Gakpo is Calvin Ramsey, because there's no point rating the young kid. Is that fair? And
sure.
We'll do Sepp Vandenberg for Bečić.
Cool.
Is that okay?
Out of context, it's going to look hilarious. But...
Okay, good.
Calvin Ramsey had an amazing season.
Go to Conroy, and we're going to... Oh, look who Conroy gets.
Oh.
Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. He gets Robertson. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this one, you know what? It's got to be. I'm going to turn the comments off now. No, I'm joking. I think for me on this one, I probably, when I done my ratings earlier, I would say he's had about a 6 this season. maybe I'm being generous. I think he's had a better season than Tsimikas, but I think he's been very inconsistent. I think he's had some good games and some poor games. He did manage to get 8 assists. He always seems to have good numbers. Like, that is one thing. He's always managed to keep that up. He managed to break the record this year as well. The most assists for a defender to get in the Premier League. And Trent, I think, was the only one in the Premier League stats, defender-wise. He was the highest. He had 9. So Robertson had 8 assists. But I still think he's not been great. Good performances, as I said, and then poor performances. I don't think there's usually he was always 7, 8, 10 a couple of years ago. I think this season's very inconsistent. So I'd maybe put it out to the panel. I could say for me probably 46. I think he's bang on 6, and I'd probably say it's the lower half. So I'd go for 46 if I'm being fair and objective and not having my Scottish glasses on, and that's what I would go with that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to very quickly say I tend to agree. So that's not much to add. I don't think he deserves anything more than a 6, and I don't think he deserves below a 4.
Yeah, anything less, I think, puts him in with a category of players that I don't want to put him in with. So 4 to 6 sounds good to me.
Do we have a thumbs up for the rest of you?
Interesting one with Tsimikas, because then because I feel like with Tsimikas he didn't really play much football. I mean, he got 4 assists. Yeah, he didn't really play much. So I mean, like 4 to 6 is the barometer for a player who hardly played any football for Liverpool this season. And we're putting Robertson next to him, and that's a tad harsh. To be honest,
are you suggesting that Tsimikas might be a bit too high?
What has he done?
I think you have
he's played about 100 minutes, no?
But surely you have to take it on what they've done whilst they played rather than what they've done whilst they didn't play, because they've got Scottish national captain in front of them. I can't remember Tsimikas having a game where we came on a show on a Sunday and said, what the bloody hell was he doing? He was crap. But I also can't remember us saying he was brilliant. So I'll take your point, Keith, but the sample size for Tsimikas is he was average, and I see 4 to 6 being average. I also agree with Conroy that Robertson was pretty average this season, so just over a much more widespread number of games, I guess that is how I see it.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing as well, Keith? See what I think's actually put Tsimikas even a bit lower down. See, since the system change, anytime he's played since that, which is understandable, he's looked like a fish out of water. Like he's not read the game well at all. And I think that maybe you're right. That's a bit more reactionary, because that, and by the way, Robertson's not been great in that system change either. But I think it really didn't help Tsimikas at all. So maybe you're right. I mean, he still did get 4 assists, to be fair. I think at the start of the season he was quite effective when he did come on. But I think it's hard to justify him a 6 to 8, isn't it? When he, especially the last 4 appearances, he's not been good.
Interesting. I know what you mean by Tsimikas, Keith. I do get Keith's point, but he'd be a 4, and then whereas Robertson would possibly be a 5 or a 6. So so 4 to 6, I guess, is fair. But you've been outvoted anyway, Keith. So even if you didn't want to argue, Evan, you get Joe Gomez.
All right, Gomez. It's been a tough season for all center backs. I think perhaps they've been first in line to deal with our systematic deficiencies, our tactical deficiencies, as the 4-3-3 as we knew it sort of crashed and burned. So that they were usually the first people required to clean up its mess, which obviously reflects maybe an unfair amount of criticism levied their way, but the criticism is justified. And I think Gomez has really suffered quite a bit, particularly. There was a time where he was Van Dijk's first choice partner, and perhaps it's just one too many injuries for the guy. So I haven't really seen him bounce back on an individual level. And the system just isn't very flattering for center backs. So I'm going to say in the 2 to 4 range for Joe Gomez.
I think Evan was so nice. I think, Evan, you eloquently put that in a way that protected, for me, what has been one of the worst seasons in Joe Gomez's career. And actually, I believe that he's had some absolutely shocking games for Liverpool this season.
I completely agree.
I agree with the tactical deficiency, absolutely. But I think him personally, injuries aside, and I've said the same as well in terms of, you know, it looks like he doesn't trust his body as much as he probably once was because he's had some horrific injuries. That can't be denied. But I think he has had some of the games he's played this season when we've needed him the most as well. This is the other thing that's really disappointed me about Joe Gomez. There have been times where we've needed him to step up and be the player to play alongside Van Dijk and really like own that position in big games for us, and he's been appalling. And I agree with where you put him 2 to 4. Honestly, like two is 2 or 3. I've been really disappointed with him this season.
That's spot on as well in the sense that you've, injuries aside, you've got to look at player accountability. This is a whole season that we're deeping. Do you know what I mean? So when you deep it, once he, as Keith said, you know, the opportunity to step up when in place of Van Dijk or where we've needed him to, he's not really took that mantle. And then further to that, when you've then been dropped, there's an opportunity to turn around and say, right, I'm going to fight my way to get back in your favour then. And whether he doesn't trust his body enough or whether he's kind of admitted defeat or he's knew he's just simply not been good enough this season, you've not seen that desire from him to want to put right his wrongs from the early part of the first half of the season. So for me, Joe Gomez, you know, Evan, you found a really nice way to wrap it up. But, let's call a spade a spade. He's been shocking this season.
I agree.
I'm willing to go down to that 0 to 2 range.
It doesn't have to go down as a result. I'm just saying you found a really nice way to call him for it, because I would have been brutal, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Anyone that's getting 2s and 4s or 0 and 2s, you've got to hear some hard truths about yourself. It can't all be down to the system. You're a multi-million-pound top of the league, you know, professional footballer. At some level, there's got to be a level of accountability that you have to also take on board. I
agree. And Grizz's point before on the other 2 guys we've already done was really good, that Tsimikas would be down by the 4 and Robert would be getting on for a 5 or a 6. In this case, Joe Gomez for me is a 2 pushing for a 3. And that's a real bad indictment on his season and his form. He's certainly not a 4. He's on the lower scale of that. So because there's a bit of scope to sort of put them in specifics, I think he belongs in 2 to 4. And if we're scoring him individually, he'd be looking to get a 3.
Yeah, I think the question is does he have a yellow 2 or a green 2? Does he have 1.9 or does he have 2.1? Because I think it's marginal. I think it's marginal. The reason I was generous, for more context, is because in my head I was like, does it make sense to put every single one of our center backs in the 0 to 2 category? No, not really. It doesn't make quite sense. So you have to find some sort of way to differentiate.
Let me level it at you this way then, if you don't mind, Evan. Sorry to jump on the back of that.
No, you're good.
Out of all of our centre backs, is Joe Gomez the worst performing centre back in this Liverpool team this season? Yes or no?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I think, but when you get all the excuses out of the way, I think he's made the most individual errors. If we were to go through and literally count them and go through the stats and see who made the most individual errors.
In that case, then there is an argument that he has to be that 0 to 2, because otherwise he's going to be in the same bunch as the 2 to 4 that a couple of the other defenders could get.
Yeah,
I think that makes him get away with more. Maybe I don't know if I've worded that right, but there's a level of, I want to be able to separate and have clear parity between some of the defenders or some of the players in general. You know, maybe that's me being really harsh.
I'll hear that. I'll put him in the bottom. I'll move forward with that motion.
Good point, Aaron. Good point.
So what are we suggesting then? Because I thought 2 and 4 would be fine, and then 2, I would have given him a 2, because, like someone mentioned, didn't he play fullback a couple of times and played okay?
He played the City game. He was quality the City game, and he did a couple of good jobs out at right back.
So therefore, doesn't that get him out of the 0 to 2 range?
Well, I think he got man of the match in the City game, but it's how we look at it. I think the comment said there, if he is one performance enough to raise your season from that.
Well, he got an
Possibly.
assist for another. He got a brilliant cross, didn't he,
Oh,
for
was
Jota header?
We're
that
talking
this
about
season?
one game here in the scale of about 40. You know.
So
Okay.
I would say
Yeah.
the Napoli game. He was part of that. The away game. He was part of the Brighton 3-0. He was part of the Brighton.
So you guys want to do 0-2? I'm cool.
I think Errol's convinced me in my own argument. I'll do 0-2.
Okay. Okay. That's voted in then.
The thing I would add, Grizz, see that when he got the assist, was that not the end of last season, or was that this season for Jota's goal? So that's my memory.
Oh, can someone remind me then? Maybe I'm just having.
Maybe it was
the
start of the season.
Respectfully, an assist isn't going to change my mind on any of this. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Fair enough. Keith, you actually look like him a little bit, but obviously far better version. Far better version of Luis Diaz. You've got that South American Latino look about you as well, my brother. So you get Luis Diaz.
Luis Diaz, yes, absolutely.
Tough one again.
Very tough one. This one is ranks with the Robertson Tsimikas argument. And he started the season, probably as our most exciting player to kind of drag us out of moments, right? Especially the Palace game. I was there live for that match, and he pretty much saved us single-handedly. And was really getting on the roll. Even in the Arsenal game, even though we lost, I thought he played really, really well. I thought he was really starting to come into his own. Just wished he passed it from time to time a little bit more. But overall, I thought, okay, Luis Diaz, it's getting really interesting. How's he going to fit with Nunez and how's the shape and how's it all going to kind of tailor up? And then he got injured. And he's been missing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at it now, he was injured. Last game he played was in the 9th of October, and he didn't play another game until the 17th of April. Right, and that's a long time. I think he was out between six to 8 months. He was out, and that's not his fault. And he can't be argued. You can't argue that he should be demoted for that reason. But I do demote him for that reason, because availability is the best ability, and we only have to look at someone like Mohamed Salah to see how blessed we are for a player. The best players have to be playing every game, and unfortunately, he wasn't available for us for a large part of the season. He came back. Spits and spurts, but again, similar to Gomez and other big injuries, there is something lacking there a little bit, and it shows, and it has been showing that he doesn't really trust himself in the way he maneuvers his body around the ball as much. So, I mean, when I look at minutes, I look at contributions, and then I look at how we've kind of started this out. If we're going to put Tsimikas in a 4-6, I would put Luis Diaz in a 4-6. I think he's provided enough for us in moments in this season, but he's not been available enough this season for us to value anything higher than if we're going to rate him individually, I'll put him at like a 5, because, as I said, he's just not been around much, but at the same time he has contributed when he's been about.
Anybody want to say? I mean, I think slightly harsh in terms of talking about his availability. There were 2 serious injuries, guys. So they weren't like sort of keep getting.
No. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Don't get me wrong. Like, as I said, it's not his fault, but that is the brutal sport of football.
Fair enough. I mean, let's not forget, before that injury, he was by far the shining outlet, by far the shining attacker in our team.
I just want to clarify one thing. Are we generally punishing people for having a lack of game time, or rewarding them? Because if you have a smaller sample size, like Luis Diaz, who got to sit out our worst months, then obviously that ranks him higher in our bias. Or are we taking points away from him because he just simply wasn't around enough?
I think I'd say there's a couple of ways of looking at it. I'd say if you're not injured and you haven't played enough, why haven't you played enough? That's on you. But if you're injured and you haven't been available, then that shouldn't count against your rating because you're injured. I think that's how I would look at it.
Unless you're a man like Naby and you just can't be fit for loving the money. Unless you're my man, or Ox.
I hope you get Naby. I hope you get Naby or Ox. That's what I'm saying. I hope you get. I don't know who you're gonna get, but I hope you're gonna get Naby or Ox. I'm good with 4-6.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever.
That's fine with me. I wouldn't argue.
I think, can I just add one thing on this? I think Errol, to be fair, he's mentioned it a few times on social media and on these shows. I think how quickly Gakpo settled into the team, his football IQ is kind of identified Luis Diaz individually, brilliant, but linking up with the team and the way he does that, you can see there's issues there. And I think that maybe definitely hasn't helped, because the Crystal Palace goal, I think that's a run and finish. It's not link up. It's not like team play. And I think when you see how easily Gakpo's settled in, how quickly, I think that does go against Diaz as well, because at times you're just like, he's obviously very good at running, but it just doesn't seem to have clicked. He doesn't seem to, a bit like Nunes, it doesn't seem to be that understanding of, that's great, Lewis, but the team's doing this. So, and it feels like, do you guys agree? It feels like it's two separate entities at times. And I think it's quite frustrating. So I actually think that's why I'd agree with everyone else. It's 46. I think Gakpo's actual signing and how quickly he's developed with the team, it probably goes against Diaz for me.
And can I just on Conroy's point there?
Okay, well, just you keep coming in on points, all of you. You keep coming in on points, but look at the time, you suckers. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, you know what I mean? Look at the squad.
You know where it is. Let it land.
Look at the squad. Look at the squad we got. We got a whole squad to get through, man. We got a whole squad to get through. But sticking with you, Errol, we got. Oh, you've got the most romantic one. I don't know how you're gonna do this one, but go on. You've got the man, the myth, because he's no longer with us, and the legend, Bobby Firmino.
Wait, do you know what? I held my hands up early this season and apologized to Bobby, because I thought in the eye of the storm, in the thick of everything, when Mane goes out the door, Bobby's not really fit to start the season. I'm there being like, we got rid of the wrong one in the forwards. We should have kept Mane for one more season. We should let Bobby go when we let Bobby go. And Bobby then came and turned around and put in some not even just at the beginning of the season when things were falling apart. Bobby came in when Nunes was suspended, came in, stepped up, started scoring goals. Diaz wasn't necessarily firing. Bobby was there in and amongst it, scoring goals. Salah hadn't hit the form that we were so used to seeing. You know, for a good couple of months, I think going into up to the World Cup, Bobby was potentially, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but he might have been our highest goal scorer for a while. And that's crazy. And I did have
Premier League, yes.
In the Premier League,
yes, he was. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, I threw the tweet out early. It must have been about October, November time, and I've apologized and said Bobby's had a resurgence this season, and thank God that he has, because we've been in desperate need of someone to really spearhead that front line. For me, he's maybe the romantic side will creep into his score as well, and obviously it's a swan song of a season, and we're bidding him farewell. But I would definitely put Bobby Firmino, given what he's given us over the course of his Liverpool career, given how much he bled into, and for that goal against Man U, and for that goal against Arsenal. Boy, man's got to sit there happy as a high 6 and an 8 for me. He could be persuaded to be tipped over to the other end of that scale as one of our better performers, because I think it was Steve that mentioned it before. I can only judge you on the amount of time that you played, and when Bobby played for us this season, he never let us down. So when you're looking at a player like that, if you could have got that throughout the 40-odd games, he'd be right up there as an 8 and a 10. And I think we'd all be hard pressed to put him any lower than that if that was a 40-game campaign for Bobby. But just on the amount of games he actually did play, I'd say he probably sits in that 6 to 8 category for me personally.
I don't think anyone will put him any further down. There may be, as you said, a case for putting him higher.
I couldn't put him higher because when Errol makes the point about him being the sort of top goal scorer, the guy with the highest GA, that comes off the back of the Bournemouth game, which was a complete anomaly, and he did lots and lots in that game. So everything else Errol says, I'm 100% in agreement with, and 6 to 8 is fine for me. That's perfect place, I think.
Okay.
Love you, Bobby, lad.
I guess we go around, and Steve gets young Fabio Carvalho.
Oh, Fabio. What do we say about Fabio? You can't look at contributions too much. The biggest contribution being the winner against Newcastle in like the 100th minute. The injury time of injury time, the time wasted by Newcastle backfired big time. I've been a bit disappointed with this lad. He comes to us from Fulham, where he was pulling up trees, albeit in the Championship. It's very difficult to get into the side. It's very difficult to understand the tactics for me, which is why he hasn't got in the side. And there's murmurings around the city that he doesn't have a particularly great attitude. And some of his stuff on Insta lately might suggest that there is a bit of an issue with him because he shouldn't be talking about stuff like that on his socials. I've been disappointed with him, to be honest with you. For me, he goes in 2 to 4, and he's only just a 4 in that ranking. We just haven't seen enough from him. A loan or a permanent transfer seems to be on the cards. Something hasn't worked. Something hasn't fitted in. Something isn't what it should be. Just wanted to see more from him, and he's been underwhelming. So for that reason, if I was scoring him individually, he gets like a 3.5.
I think Steve started off really. I thought you were going to give him a lower one. I think you ended up giving quite a generous mark. That's me.
How does he get out of the bottom category? It's not his fault. He didn't play because Klopp has come out and praised his work ethic and attitude and things like that.
I think that's just looking after the relationship. The fact that the word is Liverpool are prepared to move him on, loan or permanent, says that there are issues there. So I just haven't seen enough from him. But
regardless, so let's assume we're just saving face and he actually does have an attitude problem. Well, then that takes away from his score even more. So I'm saying 0 to 2. The guy didn't play, didn't contribute, and it's not entirely his fault. I would imagine most of it is down to our lack of planning. We pursued this guy for 2 years, and he comes in and we can't find a place for him, and he doesn't contribute. That's a 0 to 2. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. He was a non-factor. Well, how does he get any higher than 0 to 2?
Because he's not Joe Gomez. He's better than Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez is the standard bearer for a bad season, and he's not that bad. So are we saying we'd give Joe Gomez like 1.9 out of 10, which would be ridiculously harsh? Whereas I think Fabio Carvalho might be a 3.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in?
But it's not based on performances.
Evan makes a really interesting point, to be perfectly honest with you, because it is like don't get me wrong, like you're looking at a player who's been available, who hasn't played.
The reason Joe Gomez, sorry, go on, Keith, go on, sorry.
No, sorry. There's a problem behind what we're hearing is a problem behind the scene. We're actually trying to let him go out of the club as well. And the fact of the matter is, other than the last minute goal, he's probably had a couple games. You probably say the City game, Carling Cup, he was pretty good in the second half and stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, on that basis, like, he's probably had just as much of a horror show, if there ever was a horror show for a new signing at a football club, but just in a different manner compared to Joe Gomez. Like Joe Gomez, we expect. Fabio Carvalho just didn't do anything.
Let's deep it though. The way I'm differentiating the two is Joe Gomez is a Premier League, Champions League winner with this squad, who is now, how many years has Joe Gomez been in Liverpool squad? He's been with us nearly 10 years, if my memory serves. It's going on 7 or 8 nearly, surely.
Yeah, about 6, 7.
He's been with us a very long time. You are one of the senior figureheads for this squad. For you to drop the season that you've dropped, you deserve to be where you are. For Fabio Carvalho on the other end of the scale is a kid, and he's coming into his first season under a new system, trying to work his way into, at the time, one of the most prolific from threes, on top of the fact that you've just spent 80-odd million on a Nunes. I don't think you can judge him by the same metrics that you would then judge Joe Gomez. So therefore, I wouldn't put him down as quite as low. Has he had the amount of impact you would have asked for? No. But I still think there is a player in there that we as Liverpool fans didn't fully get to see this season. And that has been out of extenuating circumstances, like Evan was trying to allude to as well, and where maybe someone like Steve wanted to give him a little bit of leeway. Maybe, I don't know.
Cool. No, I hear that. Fair enough.
2 to 4? Okay, 2 to 4. I believe if he goes out on loan, I don't think he will come back. I don't think he'll play for Liverpool again, guys. I've said that before on the show. That's just my opinion. So, one to keep an eye out on. and we can discuss the reasons and the merits on another show when we discuss loans and outs and whatnot. Who's next? Conroy. Conroy, on the screen is Calvin Ramsey. We'll skip that for now, and we'll go on to the skipper.
Isn't Ramsey Gakpo?
Yeah, but we'll so to save, we'll just save it till later, to the end, because he was a late signing anyway, January signing. Jordan Henderson.
Prepping for Gakpo there. I've been dealt a low blow there.
This could be a controversial one. You could get Let's see what the comments.
I've not got the facilities for this right now. I'm not going to lie. I would say, Henderson, this is a hard one. I think if we're being real here, and we're always realistic, the chat ourselves, we try to break it down. It's no anything for show. I think for me, if we talk about that the 2-4 kick, the thing I'm struggling with this one, right, is even above, there's moments I can go to and be like, they've had strong performances, and maybe my memory's not serving me great, but right now, I'm probably going to go, I would say 45, but I'm probably more on the 4 side. I'm going to go for 46. You might disagree. For me, I think it's 46. I still think there's been poor performances, been some standout moments, but then again, not as much as the ones at 46. No, fuck it. I'm going to go, sorry for swearing, I'm going for 2-4 for me. I think he's the ones above that in the 46. I can stick on moments where they've actually had good performances in my head right now. And guys, if you want to come in with moments to help me out, I can't think of too many. And I think he's had probably the poorest season he's had for Liverpool.
That's the biggest, I think you spoke for about 1 minute, 10 seconds, and you flip-flopped and switched.
Well, it's because in my head.
Guys, did you notice it as well? He flip-flopped and switched.
Yeah.
You did the
4 to 6.
I thought you were going for the 4 to 6. I thought you were going 4 to 6.
I was like, no, his career's over if he goes to the 4 to 6.
I think Conroy, that is the biggest, the chat influenced your voting so
badly. I wasn't even looking at the chat. Do you know what it was? I was so kind of stuck on Gakpo to be enthusiastic one there that he's caught me so much. My head spiraled. So listen, help me. Right? We can get a unanimous group decision on this one.
Conroy is asking for moments of Henderson. No one has mentioned a moment this season.
If we're putting Gomez to the sword, then Henderson gets put to the sword as well. I want to caveat this by saying that
I like that.
You guys know me. I don't tweet stupid agenda bullshit for engagements. I'm impartial. I'm biased. I'm not a very emotional fan. It's become like it's sort of this cringy trend to hate on Henderson, even when he plays well, even when he does good things, even when he does all the right things as captain. I think it's repulsive, some of the treatment he gets. And yet, if I'm just looking at it completely unbiased and I'm just looking at his performances, not as captain, not as a leader, but just as a player, he's been one of the worst players in the first team this season. So I think he's right down there with Joe Gomez for me.
Let me offer a little caveat to that then. When we changed the system and things improved, he was in the 3 in the midfield. Although he was ably assisted by the joining in of Trent into the midfield, he was still part of that midfield 3. He's still someone that the manager went to as part of that redesign of the system. So we should be talking about him being in 6 to 8 because he's a captain of our football club and he's won everything and we have high expectations of him. I can't sit here and honestly say I think he belongs in 0 to 2. I think he's had a really, really bad season. Are we putting him on the same level as Joe Gomez? Probably not, because I can't think of anything positive in Joe Gomez's season at all. We struggled to get Carvalho. Maybe this is where Carvalho does drop down to Gomez's level. Then, if you're putting Henderson in 2 to 4 on the higher side of that, then I think Henderson across the season has contributed more than Carvalho.
Yeah.
Well, he's played 15 times as many minutes as Fabio Carvalho.
But if he was that bad, he wouldn't have been in the 3 that reinvigorated the system. He's had a role to do.
I would argue that when you look at our midfield, he gets in because due to a lack of available options, it's clear that Klopp doesn't trust Keita or Ox in any capacity. So when you're left with it, Klopp has to choose between Thiago, who is usually hurt, and then he has Henderson, Fabinho, Curtis Jones, who spent a lot of this season hurt. So again, I'm not participating in this cringy anti-Henderson agenda that people on Twitter like to have, but completely unbiased and without emotion. If we're looking at people who we have a substantial sample size of evidence for, with a lot of minutes played, and we can really dissect their performances across 40, 50-ish games, he has been towards the bottom of the pile on most match days. And I can't see it any other way.
I can't put him any 0 to 2.
Okay, this is going to go to the vote, I think. So Steve saying 2 to 4. Conroy said 2 to 4 after saying 8 to 10.
Eventually,
Evan,
I'm going to void my answer on this one.
Evan,
Okay,
help me keep count, people. Evan is saying 0 to 2. So we've got 2 for 2 to 4. Evan 0 to 2. Keith Cross.
Oof. All right, because it's the captain, I get a little monologue. Yeah, just because it's the captain, it's very.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, just a little one, right?
You're doing overtime.
No, obviously we've got two choices clearly between 2 to 4 and 0 to 2. I would argue that Henderson, between Carvalho and Joe Gomez, there's an argument. If we're going to put Henderson in 2 to 4, there's an argument that Carvalho has to be moved because Henderson, for all his
Shall we do that then?
this season,
Yeah,
for all his woes this season, yeah, I think so because he has had some good games for Liverpool this season. I just think his style is never going to be one that you're going to put your finger at. Like someone like Robertson, someone like Tsimikas, Diaz, you can kind of like think of the moments because it's the contributions are much more on the attacking side of things. But if you look at it in terms of games, he was really good in the Leicester game when we won 3-0. He's really good in the Leeds game as well when we won 6-1. He was a part of the team when we beat Ajax away 3-0. He was really good in that game as well. He was really good in the Manchester United when we battered Manchester United that game. So he has been involved and has played really well in some games. But the reason why I 2 to 4 would be my point is because based on our criteria, captain of Liverpool Football Club, won every single trophy available to him, but another player that went missing quite badly in key moments of the season, particularly when we were in the rafters. For that reason, I would say 2 to 4.
Can I say we need to stop saying captain and won everything? It's based on this season's performances.
Yeah, guys,
only.
come on.
Which is not what you expect. Like what I'm trying to say is, like, say for example, Henderson gave us this season as his debut season. I think it would have been looked at a little bit differently. That's what I mean.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Errol, I think you may have the final shout. I don't know. I can't work it out. We'll work it out in a minute. Conroy, have you been keeping up with the voting, please? Because you started this shit by absolutely bottling it. Absolutely bottling it. So you need to keep up with it. Errol,
not prepared.
I am struggling to. I'm struggling to get him outside that bottom one based on the metrics that we put Joe Gomez. But at the same time, I then do agree with what Keith's just stated, where he's been involved in some of the best performing Liverpool games this season. Jordan Henderson's been in that 11, and we can't take that away from him. As a team, when we've played at our best, he has been there more times than he's not been there, and he's played a vital role in us being able to perform to our best. It's been disappointing. It has. If we would have nailed on a Champions League spot, I'd probably be inclined to just give him middle of the road. But for the reason that we didn't nail on a Champions League spot, I'm going to still give him the grace of being in that 2 to 4. But it is the lowest ebbs of that 2 to 4. If I could be completely honest with you,
I'm in agreement with that. He's a 2, definitely, as opposed to even a 3 or a 4. I agree. I think Steve's won us over. If Steve initiated this counter attack or counter defense for Henderson, but I understand. Again, if it goes to the vote, guys, I also understand if we want to put Fabio Carvalho as a result to 0 to 2, or shall we leave it? Up to you guys.
No, I think we move. Me and Keith both said to move Carvalho down and put Henderson in there.
We need one more to agree to get it done.
Fuck it, I'll agree.
One more.
I'll agree.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
okay. Okay, we do that then. Okay. So thank you, son. And Henderson, thank you, son. Okay. Kelleher and Sepp Vandenberg, as I said, we will discuss later near the end of the show, so people will have an understanding of what we've done, instead of people coming in and saying, what? Why the hell is Calvin Ramsey getting a whatever we're gonna give the said players? But it's who is it? It's Evan, and Evan gets Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Do I really get Oxlade-Chamberlain, or can we just put him and Kate's at the bottom and get a move on?
Shall we just do them and get a move on?
Yeah, right, let's just get a move on. They don't play. They're not involved. Is it their fault? Is it not? Who knows? They just didn't contribute, so it's a 0-2.
Agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. You get Darwin Núñez then. Well done. That is quite a clever move, Conroy. Maybe you could have used that move, but anyway. Go on, Ev. You get Darwin while I adjust.
I mean, this is really difficult because, you know, we've given Keith used the analogy of Henderson's first season. It gets viewed differently if it was his first season. Well, this is Darwin Núñez's first season, and he comes into, probably the worst Klopp team of the last 6-7 years, probably. And at the very least, I would say Darwin has been able to be effective. He has been inconsistent, just like Robertson, inconsistent, just like other players. But before Gakpo comes in, I think he spends a decent amount of time being our primary outlet and our primary threat in a 4-3-3 that is dying, but he is still giving it a valiant effort. I think Darwin's had a phenomenal attitude in his first season faced with such adversity. And just based on numbers and performances, it's been a okay return. I think right there in the middle for Darwin, probably on the higher edge. Not a 6 to 8 range, but a 6, and right there in the middle seems good for me. It seems fair, to be honest. I think any lower is ridiculously harsh, and any higher I think might be a little overly romantic. So
I'm got my vote.
I agree.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, cool. Pretty well summed up as well. Plenty to come. Done well. First season, it is what it is. Oh, who gets this controversial one? Keith. Thiago Alcantara.
I'm going to start a theme. And I think the theme is a theme that has ran throughout our entire season. And that theme has been that our midfield, as Evan has quite summed it up right at the beginning, the systematic failures have largely been in the midfield. And that midfield performances have not been great. And despite the fact that Thiago actually clocked up about 1,200 minutes for Liverpool this season, shock horror. Wow. The performances that he has put on the board have just now can't always say it's his fault necessarily, can say it's his fault sometimes. And one thing that really, and I don't know if it was by design, so if I can blame Klopp for this, but also with Thiago, but there was a time when we were really like down in the dumps and we were trying to press as a 4, and Thiago was effectively trying to press from his position. He was trying to basically do the Curtis Jones job, and Curtis Jones coming in and then doing that job 10 times better than Thiago could do that job, whether it's his job or not, kind of exposed that actually Thiago, was not effective at all when he was available, particularly when we were trying to do something different. He got caught out so many times, got caught out with the ball so many times. I felt like he did not take the ball by the scruff of the neck and do what he was supposed to do in times of need in that midfield, whether that's Klopp's fault, whether that's his fault, whatever. To top it all off, he then gets injured and we don't see him again for a couple of months as usual. And if we're going to put Jordan Henderson as a 2-4, then Thiago Alcantara has to also go in the 2-4 category, in my opinion. I don't think it was a good season for him at all. And then to top it all off, he gets injured as usual and is unreliable as usual. So the minutes that he did play, I don't think he did anything particularly well. In fact, there was times where I thought he was pretty bad. He's been a disappointing season, especially off the back of last season. I thought he was really good, but this season he didn't continue it. And again, in the time of need, wasn't there when we needed him, and been pretty disappointing, much like a lot of our midfield this season.
Errol, you have to leave us in the next minute or two, so you can. Do you want to have a say on Thiago Alcantara?
No, the only thing I would say is, you see what man like Gundogan's doing for City. That is what Thiago and Qatar should be for this Liverpool team. The last 50, and he did it the first season he came in, where he helped sneak us into top 4. But those last 10 to 15 games of the season, you manage his minutes effectively enough so that he can be that extra dynamism to drive you forward, to be clutch, to show you I've been in these deep embers of a season before and got results because I know what it takes to do it. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to preserve his energy, his engine, his legs well enough to be able to get that out of him. And I think that's a bit of mismanagement by Liverpool, the club, but it's also the player as well in not being able to step up in the time of need, like Keith said. So I do find it very difficult to place him any higher than that.
Errol, thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one, Errol.
I'll be watching because there's a few man's names that I wanted to see come out of the hat. So I'll come back and watch this.
Leave your comments in the video. Like and subscribe, Errol. Make sure you
subscribe to the channel. Catch you later, gents. See you in a bit.
Take care. All right, in a bit. 2 to 4, did you say, Keith? Anyone want to move or shake that one about? I mean,
2 to 4 is great for me. It's just such a shame he can't.
It's a shame
because when he gets a run in the team, when he's healthy enough to start 5-6 games on the bounce, his underlying numbers are right up there with Rodri, right up there with KDB. It's just a shame they play 3 times as often as he does.
2 to 4 it is then. We do a full circle. We go around to Steve, and you have Trent Alexander the Great Arnold. Or has he been great this season?
Oh, wow. It's almost a tale of two halves.
It's another tough one, isn't it? Yeah, I know there's some tough ones.
If we're looking at before the system changed, then you'd struggle to
probably having his worst season, I'd say.
Yeah, you'd probably struggle to put him anywhere else other than alongside Thiago. But since the change in the system, he's pivotal to everything, and he's shown us what a wonderful footballer he is. And that's going to kind of get him out of jail. What it isn't going to do is elevate him to the top of that chart, because we're a long way away from that type of performance. He's redeemed himself to some degree with his performances in the new system. There was one game in there where I didn't think he was particularly great. I think he goes in the 4 to 6 category, and for me, he's very much a 6. I can't forget what went on before the system changed and how poor he was, but he wasn't alone in that. But world-class footballers dig in and drag their team out of trouble when it happens, and he didn't do it. So next season, that system carries on. He carries on playing like he is playing. He's trouble in the top 2 categories all day long. But as things are for me, I'm going to give him a 6 purely because of the last 11 games when he was the catalyst for the change.
Anybody want to minus or subtract anything from what Steve said?
I
think it's a tricky one. I'm not in completely agreement because I think there's a bit of recency bias in the last 10 games, because I will openly admit previously he was on, for me, just me, you guys can argue away with me. For me, he was on a Joe Gomez levels of season. Before that, he was that atrocious. But I absolutely understand that he's been the catalyst for the upturn in performance, more so results. So whoever wants to weigh in, that's what I've said.
I think 4 to 6 sounds completely correct. I agree with Steve. If the season had lasted another 5 games, then I would perhaps hear arguments for him getting a tier higher, because ever since moving into midfield when in possession, I think he's been incredible. 4 to 6 seems about right. Anything lower is just too harsh. I think the systematic deficiencies were dumped at his doorstep alongside the center backs. 4 to 6.
I have a feeling you two agree probably as well. Keith and Conroy.
Yeah, spot on about the recency bias. I think that's quite apt. I think he was losing his head at one stage this season, to be perfectly honest with you, and he was stropping a lot. And he has that. It's probably the one thing that's come out of this that I've noticed about Trent at times when things are not going his way. He does like to strop, so it'd be interesting to see he can start managing that next season, because he started to show that a little bit towards the end of his hot run, particularly against Aston Villa. So be interesting to see if he can deal with that next season.
Running out of time very, very quickly, but we've got running out of time very quickly. Does that make sense? Running out of time very quickly.
Mhm.
Makes sense, yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Running out of time very quickly. But there is a couple of crucial players that we need to speak upon. Steve will be leaving us at 9:15, so we'll try to get as many as we can from him. Virgil van Dijk, though, Con. You get Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick with this one. 46 for me. I think similar to the others, he has had some good performances and he's had some poor ones, more than we've ever seen with Virgil this season. There's been a lot of RedFellas shows where we've been critical of his performances, but again, I don't think he's 2-4 or 0-2. I don't think it's been horrendous. I think, again, inconsistent. There has been good performances and poor ones, so 46 from me.
Anybody else disagree? I'll put in my first disagreement. I think is a 2-4. I think without doubt it's been his worst season. I think he's not.
I'm in agreement with Conroy.
Okay, that's 1-4.
I agree with Conroy. If we're used to 8 to 10 and he's dropped down a few levels, I think 4 to 6 is where he lands.
He wins the vote, Keith.
I think I get why you're thinking what you think, Grizz, but
I hear you.
Yeah, I think it's been atrocious. That's just me. No problem. I get outvoted. Democracy. 4 to 6.
4 to 6. Just for me though.
Okay.
4 of the 6. Shall we say?
If we gave Henderson a 2-4 based on the relevancy of him, the leader, the captain, the go-to guy,
true.
Virgil has been atrocious, guys. Atrocious.
But Chris, there's extenuating circumstances, right? And I've said this before.
That's for everyone, though.
But if I'm a good number 9, right, I'm going to take Virgil van Dijk for a walk because Liverpool's midfield is non-existent. That guy stood there, seeing 3 guys running at him, being pulled out of position by a centre forward. There are times he's been really bad. The Perisic challenge is probably the best example of how bad things can go for him. He's never a 2 or a 4. It's been the Alamo for most of the season with no.
I'm going to do a poll for this one. I'm going to actually put this to the poll. There's nearly 460 of you guys in here. So hopefully we'll get a vote because I think me and Keith are onto something here. And there's no error, so we can't balance it up. So therefore, the third vote goes to the fans, the subscribers. Conroy, Evan, and Steve say 4 to 6. Me and Keith are saying 2 to 4. Let's see what the vote says. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I the reason I think Grizz it's his worst season, absolutely it's his worst season, but I think as Evan said, he was on such a high level that I still think if Liverpool are starting a big game the next week and Virgil van Dijk was fit, you'd always start Virgil van Dijk. So I feel like when I look below that to the other players, I don't think that was the case. So I still feel like he had a performance in him and he showed that at times this season. So that's why it was 4 to 6 for me. I think he's been on such a high standard that for him to drop as much as he had, I still think it's in the 46 category. I just think anyone below that deserved to be there, and he's not along with them, in my opinion. But I'm sure the chat from the comments will see what they say.
Well, let's see what they say. I've done a poll. People, get your votes in ASAP. I'm gonna just hopefully by the end of the. So we'll leave that out for now. Actually, we'll go with the majority, which was 4 to 6 for now. So the majority said 4 to 6, but I think. We'll see how that one goes. All right. Evan, is it Evan?
Mm-hmm.
Evan, Nat Phillips, Void. You get Diogo Jota, and I'll explain to the guys what we're doing with the rest of them. Diogo Jota, you get.
I mean, shit, barely played, didn't he? Barely played. I mean, he goes down at the start of the season, didn't break his goal duct, then comes back, and then kind of single-handedly leads the top 4 charge for a few weeks. What can you make with such a small sample size? It's really tough to say. I mean, to be honest, if I see him in a similar category with Luis Diaz, if I'm being honest, and I think he's come back in, roughly around the same time as Diaz, and I think he's been better. So. I think 6, but I'll keep him in the same category as Diaz. I'll keep him in the middle of the road, 4 to 6.
We good with that? I wouldn't disagree with that. Anybody?
I would put 6 to 8, to be honest. I think he's been more effective. I think he's been better. I think he's been, the moments he's had, he's stepped up. I think he's, even when he's not scored, he's still been decent.
I would have done that, Conroy, but with such a small sample size, it's like irresponsible when you like look at data and come to conclusions with such small amounts of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, still, I live in GA, mate, for this season. Considering that, still living 11 goals and assists in the Premier League. I mean, I just think like maybe this is what we're doing. We're taking the comparison of who's already there, but I don't disagree massively with that. I just think for me, I'd put him in the same category, 6 to 8, just because I think he's had moments, even the Spurs goal to keep us in the hunt. You know, I think he's had more positives than other players. So that was my opinion on that.
Conroy needs one more vote for it to go to a poll. Has Conroy got one more vote from us? I'd say 4 to 6. I don't think his performances have been great. 4 to 6. Keith?
4 to 6 only, and I'll say this, is because of the many numbers of games where he didn't score a goal. That goal drought for me was quite significant. But I get where Conroy's coming from, though. He was very effective, not just in goals and assists, but actually in improving our counter press and the forward lines, and actually playing him to the new system that we were building in. He was probably one of the best forwards to do that this season. Firmino being there, I think he probably gets a little bit of an edge because of the romance. But if Firmino wasn't leaving next season, he'd probably also be in the 4 to 6, if we're being honest, in relation to Diogo Jota, because they play similar minutes, they had similar contributions. So, you know, we put 4 to 6 for Diogo because we're not romanticizing, but him and Firmino, for me, very close.
I think you're right, Keith. I think from the Rangers game when he got 3 assists, which massively influences GA for the season. And then he got injured and I made a big spell out and he came back. But there was a long spell, you're right, Keith, when he came back where he didn't look like he was contributing. There were some people in the fan base who could see him being moved on in the summer. And then suddenly kicked in and scored a lot. His goals came in a bunch, didn't they? So I think you put that point across really well. So for me, 4 to 6, it's really well.
I think he's going to stay there, Conroy. I get what you mean as well, though. Emika joins in the chat. He said, just tuned in and I'm shocked with Gomez's rating. He deserved nothing more than a 0. Completely shocking. I don't know where else to put Joe Gomez, Emika. We actually put him in the 0 to 2 category. Maybe watch back and see the comments and what we said about him before saying you're actually shocked at our rating of Joe Gomez. Who's next? Evan? No, Keith. Keith, you get Harvey Elliott.
Is it? No, I think who done Jota? Conroy.
No, it was Evan.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Oh, cool. It was Evan. Sorry, apologies. Harvey. Oh, this is a tough one. This is a really tough one. Harvey Elliott. I'll put him in.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I'm stumped, mate, to be honest with you. I enjoyed Harvey Elliott in moments this season. Do you know, like, I feel like he's played well, but he's not played badly and he's not like lit the world on fire. And he's just been useful, if warrants a better term. You know, he's been, yeah, I mean, for the amount of minutes that he's played this season, you know, it's not been amazing, but, you know, I'd put him maybe in the 2 to 4 category. I feel like the only reason I put him in the 2 to 4 category is because I feel like this could have been the season for him to really own that right side in midfield position that he's been brought up to and play in that position for a while. And with Jordan Henderson being so out of form, the fact that he hasn't really been able to usurp Jordan Henderson in that position, that should ring alarm bells in terms of, you know, of big opportunities. We know he's got it in him. He's still got many years to kind of develop in how he plays. I thought he had some really good matches. I thought he played really well against Manchester United, but I don't think he's done enough to take a position that was really open to really own and take the ball by the scruff of the neck this season. He's been in the first team now for a couple of years now, so it's not like, you know, this is a young buck like a Steven Bajcetic who's just come in. So he's not done enough this season to warrant to be in the 4 to 6 category. But he's on the higher end of the 2 to 4 because he's had some good moments. Mm-hmm. He is a kid though. Yeah, he is a kid though. But again, he's been in the first team for a while now. And I just feel like that right-sided midfielder position was there for the taking this season, and he didn't really take it.
Any minor subtraction?
Can I just quickly, before you jump in, Evan, just first part of the season when we came on the show, he was kind of the shining light in the first couple of months of the season and was playing really well. I think he's been better than Thiago this season. The Man United game, really good point to reference. Everything went through him. I think 2 to 4 does him a little bit of disservice, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think few people have suffered more from our midfield deficiencies this season than Harvey Elliott. I think he's yet to be able to play in a truly functional midfield. We saw how at home he looked in a midfield 3 at the beginning of the previous season, and then he obviously gets that horrific injury. So people would get on him this season for, defensive work or not, protecting enough. And yet he's supposed to do that in this sort of cursed 4-3-3 with Fabinho and Henderson, who are both, I think, shoe-ins for 2 to 4 or lower. That's not cool. I disagree with Keith a little bit in the sense that it was his for the taking. If it was a good season for Liverpool and there was lots of just positive opportunity for him, if he was playing in a good system in a healthy team and he was still unable to be effective, then absolutely I would say the alarm bells are ringing. But as far as I'm concerned, Harvey Elliott, a guy who has so much skill, so clearly has the X factor, for him to be expected to come in and solidify things up when he's not that type of player and that's not his job at 19, 20 years old, I think it's a bit of a disservice to put him that low. 4 to 6, I think, is fair to the kid.
Conray, was you the 2 to 4 or 4 to 6?
I think for me, I'd
no comments. We need to move on.
4 to 6 for me.
I'm in agreement with you as well. 4 to 6.
You're harsh, man, Keith.
I've been swayed. 4 to 6. I've been swayed.
Just a quick update on the voting that hasn't finished. Actually, can someone check the voting in a minute when you get a chance? Back to Steve, and Steve gets Ibu Kanate.
Okay, an interesting one. Off the back of one of the best performances of a centre-back in a Champions League final, I have to be honest with you, I wanted to see more from Ibu this season, and he's been a bit inconsistent like the rest of them. Someone made the point before that all of the centre-backs will get low scores for this season for obvious reasons. He's had some good games, he's had some bad games, and he's had 1 or 2 awful games, to be brutally honest with you. Is he alongside Virgil? I think Virgil is maybe between a 5 and a 6. And I think Ibu for me is between a 4 and a 4.5. I haven't seen him step forward and go on and be what I wanted him to be off the back of a magnificent performance in losing the Champions League final.
Interesting.
Sorry, guys, I have to interrupt. I just checked the poll. It's 50-50.
Okay, it goes on then. Okay, no problem.
22 votes and it's 50-50.
It goes on. We wait until the end of the show, possibly, to make a decider, to make a call. Ibu Konate chat. Anybody?
It's so hard. It's so hard to argue for a center back. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough. I think Ibu has been comfortably better than Matip and Gomez by a significant margin, but not streets ahead of Van Dijk. So I see what Steve's saying. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't argue against it, Steve. If he belongs in the middle, then let's put him in the middle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, bit like Trent. Last part of the season's probably saved him. He's been inconsistent and he's not been available as well. That's another thing. He hasn't been around for a while. He suffered from niggles this season, been out for a couple of months. So yeah, I go with 4 to 6.
Guys, man,
I'll go for a 7. So I'd say 6 to 8 for me because
I'm with Con here.
Yeah.
I think he's easily been again our best centre back. Way better than Virgil if we're putting Virgil in 4 to 6. Okay, when I say way better, he's been better than Virgil. So if we're saying Virgil's in 4 to 6, in fact, you could say, okay, I get it, because you could construe Virgil as a 4 and Ibu as a 6 then. I don't know. This might be a poll job. Is this a poll job? Are we equalized? Is it 2-2? No, it's not. Is it 2-2?
I'm 4-6. Evans 4.
I'm
No,
4-6.
3-2.
3-2.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
But Errol's not here, so that's what I mean. It goes to the poll. The third vote goes to the
Put
poll.
it to a poll. This will be an interesting one actually, because the comments I'm seeing right now, this might be
Mixed, isn't it? It's mixed.
Yeah.
It's mixed. All right, I'll do. We'll put him with the original decider, which was Steve. We'll put him in the 4-6. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll do a poll for that as well. Curtis Jones.
So is that
Conroy.
Yeah, I think for this one, do you know what? I was saying 46, but if we talk about like sample size and actually where he's started or he's played a lot in games, it does fall into that good run we had the last 11 games where I think we didn't lose a game, and to be honest, they kind of came of age in those moments. So on that and judging it that way specifically on when he's played. Now, I know, Evan, you might mention, we're talking about the full season, but which we could put it down to 4-6. But on those performances, when it wasn't like a 5-minute sub appearance, and I think the only start he had out with that was Notts Forest, where we lost away, I would probably put him in the 6 to 8. But then maybe I'm just being too reactionary with his recent form. So I'm going to say 6 to 8, but I'm quite happy for it to be a 4 to 6. But I think the last 11 games, he really stepped up. So that's why I've put him in that category.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah.
I'm just going to weigh in and say the difference between Trent and the Curtis, for me, is, and a few others. When Curtis Jones has played, which has been pretty much the last 12 games, he's been a minimum 6 for me. I don't know. People have to let me know in the chat, unless Evan has got minutes to hand or how much.
I checked the minutes before there. He played like a lot in the last 11 games, but before that it was.
He barely played. It's like,
but this is my point, guys. If he barely played, we can't judge him on that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He escapes the wrath, whereas Trent gets relegated to 4 to 6 because he had a poor pre-World Cup run. Curtis Jones just wasn't fit or wasn't available during that really truly awful time for the team. So Curtis Jones has this luxury of his sample size only being during the formation change. So he gets all this positive energy, but that's such a limited bias sample size.
But so does Trent. Trent gets that voting because of the positive ending.
Trent does, but I'm saying if Trent, like, imagine we had been in this formation pre-World Cup and Trent had been in midfield, Trent would be like a 6 to 8 if we're averaging.
Agreed. But we also said, I think, and if I didn't, then I must have been thinking it only, that we have to judge them and rate them on their performances on the pitch as much as we can. That's the crucial criteria. That's the bulk of the criteria. Performances on the pitch. Then we deduct sort of availability and whatnot. On the pitch, I think he's been a 6. I don't know whether it's a 4 to 6, 10 or a 6 to 8, but on the pitch, he's been a 6.
I have great vibes around Curtis Jones. I have great feelings about Curtis Jones. I'm a Curtis Jones advocate, but we got to be a little more partial when it comes to looking at the data. It's 4 to 6 because before March, he wasn't a factor. He was in the Naby and Ox category of where is he? When's he going to play? Yeah. Is he healthy? What's this latest injury? I don't know. It's all of a mystery. It's 4 to 6. I don't see how it could be anything else.
Conroy 4 to 6. Evan 4 to 6.
Yeah. Didn't we do a transfer show where at one stage we were debating? I think the only reason Curtis Jones wasn't going to get let go at the time was because of the fact that he was like homegrown and young. But apart from that, we were wondering where the hell he'd gone. Like that was what we were talking about in December.
We were selling him for 15 million in late January.
No, I was 25 million. You guys were trying to sell him for 15. I was saying 25 million. Yeah, so put some respect on my name.
We were selling him though. We were selling him.
But we were selling him on the basis of availability and not taking his chances. Fast forward 5 months, he's taken those chances and now he's off the sale list. So therefore, we need to credit him for that. We criticized him for not performing. And
Yeah,
not being available.
and I'm keeping him out of the Ox and Kata category by bumping him up to 4 to 6 because he's had 2.5 months of good form and availability. So there he goes.
I think Evan's point, I think that's fair. I think we are forgetting slightly that in that period, it wasn't like it was a long-term injury. Like, he really wasn't taking his opportunities. So obviously it wasn't as bad as Trent. But to be fair, Trent, as you said, Grizz, Trent would have been absolutely criticised massively in this show if he didn't just do the outstanding performances, which has just made his season average not great. So I think with Evan's point, I'd still say it's a 6, but 46, strong 6, but 46 for me. I think I was probably being a bit too recency biased there if I put him in a 6 to 8. So I'm quite happy. 46.
Can someone give me, because I've just realized can you do more than one poll at a time?
I
don't think so.
I don't think I can because it's not letting me. So I think we have to get a final result.
Right, I'll check now. Right now, 159 votes. We're at 46, 52% for Virgil van Dijk. And I'll just check.
So where does he go?
So it's 46 is 52, and so he's 46 would be the category for Virgil.
He
stays where he is.
Oh, he stays where he is. Okay, fair enough. Fair play.
Some vote, chat, though. Some vote. That's what we love. One fact.
Fair play. Fair play. Fair play. Guys, there's over 450 of you guys still in here. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. We're so close to 30K. Hopefully we can reach it today. If we can't, we will reach it this week or the following week or the following week. We're right here. We're not going nowhere. Evan has just done Curtis Jones, I believe.
No, I've done Curtis Jones.
I beg your pardon.
I got Matip.
You got Joel Matip.
Joel Matip, comfortably a better player than Joe Gomez, just in general, but has played down to Joe Gomez's level. I think he's been marginally better than Joe Gomez at times, maybe just because he's much better on the ball than Joe Gomez. I mean, it's kind of like Van Dijk, whereas Van Dijk's floor was like an 8 to 10, and this season he's been like a 4 to 6. I would say in the past, Matip's floor has been a 6 to 8 or above, and now he's played down multiple levels. I'm stuck between 0 to 2 and 2 to 4 for Joel Matip, just mainly because of my own disappointment, because I rate him so highly and I think he's been that poor. I think I'm gonna say 0 to 2 for Matip, just because I've been so disappointed. He went from being comfortably our second best center back to Joe Gomez's level of liability, individual errors, physical decline, potentially. Just, it hasn't been great.
Anybody else want to disagree?
I agree.
You agree? 0 to 2, Conroy?
Yeah. I think Evan sums it up well. I think it's a hard one because I think Matip, to be fair, he'd surprise you at times in his ability, but I just think those two together, I just think Napoli away, I just think not trusting them, and the trust is completely gone, I think, by all fans. So I agree with Evan and Steve.
Tough one, isn't it? We're not moments people. Yeah. I mean, he had 2 moments this season. I mean, we forget obviously the Ajax game when we narrowly won that game. Was really good, and then the West Ham game at the end of the season, bullet header won us the game in that time. Other than that, that's the only reason. But to the point, it's like putting down Bambi with Joel Matip. To be honest, it pains me to do it because he's got all the quality in the world, but he's not been available at all. And when he has been available, he's been shocking. So 0 to 2.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like taking Fabinho.
Here we go.
Chris, give yourself a treat. Go for it.
No, it's a tricky one with Fabinho, to be honest with you. Fabinho is, again, one of those ones that would have got a straight 0 to 2 for me for the opening, whatever, of the season. Of course, the change in formation slightly puts him off, but I can't put him above 2 to 4 for me. Absolutely can't. Like, he's on 2 to 4, but 3 probably for me.
I think if Henderson is the established floor for senior midfielders at 2 to 4, then Fabinho is marginally ahead of him, but in the same category.
Yeah, so Henderson would be a 2, and Fabinho you could say would be a
2.5,
4,
2.5, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say one thing about
Keith?
Fabinho?
Of course, you get 38-year-old James Milner.
Yes. Oh, James Milner. Look, I'm gonna get romantic. So if we can get romantic about Firmino by bumping him up a level, I'm gonna get romantic about James Milner. The man signed a contract with reduced salary and reduced terms because he was supposed to play less football this season and still managed to clock up more minutes than most of the people in that 0 to 2 category. And I'm looking at Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain. I believe if it does not mistake me, I just need to double check with this real quick. James Milner clocked up over almost 1,000 minutes of football this season. He's come in when he's been needed. He's not done anything amazing. And he's been part of the midfields that has been absolute, when he has come in, he's been part of that midfield that's just not been very good. So he would have been a 0 to 2 if he probably played less minutes and still put on the similar performances. I still think he's come on and done a job, but I can't, with all good faith, looking at this, put him anywhere higher than a 2 to 4. And that's just with love and romance and respect for the fact that he's leaving, the fact that he took a reduced contract but still had to play a lot of minutes because other players were unavailable because they were unfit or they were injured, and he still came in and did a job. Did he do a job that solidified his place in the team that would get him in the 4 to 6 categories? No, and Tsimikas, I'm still looking at you and thinking you're lucky to be in the 4 to 6 category. But James Milner for me, 2 to 4.
I'm looking back at that Tsimikas one as well now, to be honest with you. But we'll address that. Steve unfortunately has to leave us. He's got a little bit of an emergency he has to check up on. Okay, but I'm here. And the rest of them are here, which is the main thing. What are we doing then? James Milner, 2 to 4. Yeah?
I'm outvoted, so it doesn't matter.
What was you going to say?
I was going to say 4 to 6. What can you expect? Whatever.
Oh, you are a romantic, Evan.
No, I don't know. I just it's just kind of like, I don't know. Did he perform any worse than he usually does? Did he perform any better than he usually does? What has he been for us? Solid. He's been a solid 6 out of 10 players entire Liverpool career. So yeah, but again, I don't feel passionately about it, and I'm outvoted anyways. So
I'm actually, you're not outvoted, because I'm in the 4 to 6 category as well.
Does Milner get a poll? That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Milner gets a poll. By the way, we're just going to quickly end the Ibu poll. The Ibu poll won't change, so it's unanimously 72%, which I thought are going to agree with me. 72% are saying 6 to 8. So okay. Therefore, Ibu gets 6 to 8.
Good for him.
Good for him, man.
Good for him.
You know what I mean?
I'm
6,
happy for him.
Look. I'm not suggesting 8, but 6 to stroke 7. Definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I've wanted to give a small handful of players a higher rating than they currently sit, but I don't want to be accused of being this, that, and the other. So I've tried to keep it serious to match the tone of the show.
All right, so Millie. What was the Millie? Millie was 2 to 4 or 4 to 6,
4
right?
to 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's next, guys?
Conroy has Salah.
Is that me? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Right. Do not look at the comments. You gotta just keep strong.
No, listen, I know
strong-minded.
I know this one. Do you know what? I think obviously look at Salah's stats. Brilliant. I think we'd all agree we've done a show every week. I don't think performance-wise he's been amazing all season. And I think one of the biggest habits in Mo is he scores even when he's not playing well. So, I mean, you can't even have a go for that. I mean, at the Arsenal match, the game, he must have had about so many chances, was not having a good game at all, then gets to go before half-time, which I know he misses the penalty, but he's so effective at that, it changes the momentum. So, for me, I look at the top category, and they're in my stats and my records, there's one person who's getting that, maybe 2. And we can have a debate on this. I think he has had a good season, but I don't think it's been his best season. I don't think he's been exceptional. I think he's always got great stats. His goal scoring is remarkable, but I think 6 to 8 for me. I'd say 7 to 8, but 7 to 8, but 6 to 8 for me. But that's just the way I've viewed our season and the 2 standouts. And I'm happy to change my mind on that. I'm trying to be quite consistent on that with the way I've scored it. So I've had him as 7, so it's a 6 to 8 for me.
What's that facial expression, Keith? Explain.
No, I just see someone in the chat, man. Shane McGee. Woof. Mo is a 4 to 6. When silent,
I thought you were having to go at me. I was like, I thought I explained that quite well.
Okay.
I'm gonna put him at 8 to 10 because for him to accumulate the stats that he has, given how dysfunctional, inconsistent the tactics and his teammates have been, with everything going against him as a stat monster to put up stats, he's still done it. And you take any other player in this league, in the top 5 leagues, and you give him his stats, and you ask anybody out of 10 what sort of season did this guy have, everybody's saying 8 out of 10. But we as Liverpool fans, with our hurt and our sorrow and our depression over the season, would be, I think, prone to being overly critical. For anybody else, it's the season of their lives. I think Mo ends up with his 3rd or 4th best season in a Liverpool shirt in terms of output in the worst Liverpool team of the Klopp era, arguably. That's an 8 out of 10 when you apply all the context to mine.
I think he's an 8 out of 10, but I don't think he goes into the 8 out of 10 category, because that suggests that's going to be compared with maybe someone else that we may put in there or not put in there. I think big moments. I look at the penalties he's missed, crucial penalties that would have probably got us into the top 4. Moments make great players, and his numbers have been great, but his performances haven't. I don't think he scored the quality of goals he has in the past. There has been a few stroke tap-ins. I know Haaland scored 50 tap-ins, but yeah, I get Salah getting an 8. I get the 0.7 made, but I couldn't put him into the top category, which would mean he's had an elite season. You see, 8 out of 10 is the elite season. I don't think it's been an elite season for Mohamed Salah standards at all. And I think he'd probably be the biggest critic of that himself. And you can see sometimes of his body language when he's coming off the pitch or in the interviews, he's not happy with himself. I'm going 6 to 8. But 8 is, I'd accept if it was 7 or 8. Keith, who's left? Conroy? Who's left?
Yeah, no, myself. See, for me, that he was one of the, in my opinion, the 2 players that would go into that 8 to 10 category this season. And yes, 8 is the lower side of the 8, shall we say? Yeah, and it hasn't been an elite season for Salah, but it hasn't been an elite season for Liverpool. And so, in that context, and with the amount of players that we put in the kind of the 4 to 6s and the 6 to 8 category, he probably pulls away from Firmino and Konate for a couple of reasons. I think, first of all, you're looking at his goals and his contribution in general. Yes, even though that he could probably score 2 goals in the game and probably give you a 5 out of 10 performance from time to time, the most important thing is that his contributions have allowed us to be in a position that we're even playing Europa League football, period, in my opinion. Without Mo Salah, it would have been a lot worse, I think, if another player had been playing in that position. My second one, and I know that this is the underlying that we've been doing this whole thing, but for me, I can't shake it personally. It's just that thing about being available. Do you know what I mean? Being available every game, all season, for every single football match. 48 games, I think he's played, or 50 games this season for Liverpool. He's been there when we've needed him the most. He's dropped off in his performances at times. I'll never forget that period when we were losing to Brighton and Wolves and we weren't scoring goals, and he was pulling shots and stuff like that as well. But there's plenty of other times this season where he scored goals and helped to change games in crucial situations that have meant that he has been a level above. His goals compared to the person that's second is quite a gap as well when we look at it in terms of the contribution. So I think for that reason, maybe on the lower side of the 8 to 10, but definitely probably one of the 2 top this season.
I think definitely lower side of an 8 to 10. I think Keith's right. We've not hesitated to dock points from players for not being available enough. Are we not going to award Mohamed Salah for never having a single significant injury in his Liverpool career, constantly showing up? Like in our 2 worst seasons, he has still shown up and challenged for the Golden Boot. Well, maybe not this season because Haaland scored 40 goals or whatever. But this dude,
look at this. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so varying.
Yeah, it's very split. But for me, yeah, low by his own standards, victim of his own standards. But given the context, the dude has still shown up. He's always available. He always gives you 30 plus GA. Always. He is one of the most inevitable players in world football, and we're gonna put him with Firmino and Konate. I don't know.
Are we going to put him with the standout player of the season as well on that basis? I think we all agree.
There's levels to it, and I'm sure we'll make sure that there's levels to it. But yeah, I think Mohamed Salah is a top category player.
AJ, that doesn't help us. There's 2 categories of 8 here.
Yeah, one or the other.
I agree. I appreciate you saying Salah is an 8, but we all agree he's an 8.
We're all saying that. It's what side?
What side?
I've made all of my argument. I've made 99% of my arguments today based on numbers, and I'm doing the same for Salah. Like, you just look at the numbers. The dude's an 8 out of 10 performer.
Yeah, but sometimes Evan is that
8.1
and easy misses that should have made us Champions League.
Can I also point to his teammates bottling all the XG that he single-handedly created for them? Okay, like
second top assists behind De Bruyne as well.
Second top assists, and think about Nunez burying all those chances that Salah creates for him.
But they've paid for that by putting into the 4 to 6 category. They paid for that,
and they have paid for it. But I'm saying, like,
we've executed. We've brought them down to 4 to 6. Look, I get it. Where we at? Where we at with this? How's the
2-2?
Us?
2-2, yeah.
Shit! Another poll. Okay.
The thing for me is, I get what Evan's saying. I just, the numbers are one thing, right? But I don't want it to be kind of a recency bias of, Mo's being our player of the season, because that is not the case. There's been far too many. No, but what I'm saying is, when we share this, and the way I've done this poll for me in my head, it's like the person at the top are the 2 who I think have been our 1 or the 2 standout performers. And I just performance-wise, but we'll have to go to a poll then. We'll have to go to a poll.
Guys, by the way, Milner got clearly 4 to 6. So whoever had him on 2 to 4,
yes. I was playing my game.
63% went Milner 4 to 6. I'm going to do the Mohamed Salah poll. While who gets Alisson?
I get Alisson.
I think that's much to speak on.
Alisson's been our best player this season. He's the best goalkeeper in world football. He's the best goalkeeper I've seen at Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, you take away his performances. I think we've helped his case by constantly giving him things to do. In my opinion, Alisson's always been this good. We were just better at nullifying shots on target against him. We just gave him less to do against the dregs of the Premier League, but now we gave him plenty to do against the lower half teams of the Premier League. So yeah, we've given him more to do, but he's risen to the challenge. He's kept us in games, and I think, you take away Alisson's contributions, we're in 9th or 10th. You take away Salah's contributions, and we're in 14th. So that's why I would group them together. So yeah, Alisson, player of the season, best goalkeeper in the world.
I don't think there's any arguments on that. I think that's unanimous. Mohamed Salah has gone to a poll, people. Vote, because I think this is going to be probably the most voted on poll. Right, this is where we try to explain the rest. And we try to leave it to the end because we have Stefan Bajcetic and Gakpo. Is there anyone else, guys, I've left out? Stefan Bajcetic and Gakpo to vote on. Calvin Ramsey is going to be who? We'll choose 2 of them. Calvin Ramsey and Phillips, because at least Phillips was in the squad, right? Sepp Van is in Germany somewhere. So we'll pretend Stefan Bajcetic, because he's young, probably same age as Calvin Ramsey, or roughly. I guess Conroy gets him. Conroy, is it Conroy? Yeah, Conroy, you get Stefan Bajcetic.
Yeah, I think for me, 6 to 8 for Stefan Bajcetic. I think, the last, what he played, again, as we talk about no one expecting it, and we mentioned it with Van Dijk and Henderson, I feel like no one expected him to come in and play the way he did. And I think, he was very, very good. And I was very impressed, to be honest. The fact now that we'll be looking to next season, we've had the discussions on transfers that we feel like there should be a number 6 in, but he's definitely put his hat in the ring. So I found it really difficult when I was marking this earlier to put him in a 46, because I think from what he's done It's a 6 to 8 for me. And unlike the Jones, where Evan made a good point of we'd done potential transfer leavings earlier in the season, and he was in there and he really wasn't staking a claim early in the season. I don't think it's fair to put Bajcetic in that category, because you don't expect that from someone. No one was expecting him to actually get in the first team and do that. So I think for me, it's a 6 to 8.
Ev?
I think he's played a dozen games in the Premier League and he's done well. Cool. Jones has just played the same amount of Premier League games in the last 2.5 months and he's done well. We're looking at very similar sample sizes, I think, and we've put Jones in 4 to 6.
But I just said, but you said earlier Jones had never really made him. He had an opportunity to stake a claim and he didn't at the start of the season. Where I don't think that.
To be fair, Curtis Jones had that weird freak injury where I think he was actually unavailable for months at a time. So I don't think it was a case of him not forcing his way into the team. I think there was so many match days where he just wasn't in the squad. And then it comes out he has this eye injury. And then he has this strange injury where he has to rest every 4th day. So it's strange. But I just think if in the interest of consistency, I think we have 2 very similar cases here, and we gave Jones a 4 to 6.
See, the one thing that's swaying me, Evans being very yes, we've been in for an hour and 40 minutes, and he's so right. We have made these kind of structures and how we've done this, and Curtis Jones shouldn't be said to be any different from Bajcetic. The only thing where I feel the romantic side of me would give him the 6 to 8 is because of the fact that this kid came out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? This kid came out of nowhere at a time when Liverpool were absolutely crying out for a player to do that job of protecting the back four and just add some legs to a midfield that was just crumbling, right? And losing left, right, and centre, losing midfield battles. And to see this boy come out of nowhere, I can't lie, I didn't even really know that we signed this guy for 250k a year or 2 ago. I didn't even know he was in the squad and we paid this kind of money for him. For him to kind of explode onto the scene in the way that he did was probably one of the few good feel stories that we had in what has been a pretty depressing season. And for him at his age, and he was a centre back, comes in, plays as a midfield, comes into a team that's not doing very well at all, with all those factors in place, and comes in and puts in commanding performances, particularly against the likes of Aston Villa, away at Newcastle in a game that many pundits had Newcastle as the day that they were going to topple us and put us in our place. The injury sapped something away in terms of that, took that little bit of emphasis away. But I still think that he could get a 6 to 8 just for that feel, what he managed to achieve and give us as fans this season. So I'm throwing another element or a spanner in the works or something along the lines of that, which is why I would put him in the 6 to 8 category. But it is a romantic. It's not a numbers thing, and it's not based on the criteria we put together this evening at all. This is very much the romantic side of me coming out.
Just before we let Conroy say,
I'm a great romantic.
I wanted to bring up AJ because a couple of people are saying, is that Grizz's brother? We do have actually a similarity there. Actually, he does look a little bit like me. So big up, AJ. Thank you very much. Great chat participation. But let's not forget to we are all enjoying the content, hence the participation. Exactly. Still over 450 of you. Still the ratio of likes is abysmal. Plenty of arguments, plenty of debates, plenty of chat. We don't know. Keith's made some good points there, Conroy. I don't know where you stand on this one. I get it. Look, a little bit of romance is allowed, guys. Let's not all be statos like Evan, robotic.
But
Pep Guardiola here.
That's okay. I want there to be
consistency.
I want there to be consistency, but I also want contrasting opinions. Sometimes I take a stance just because someone has to, and it's less to do with my actual feelings. I think that makes you a good.
Debater. In your head and in your heart, is there 2 different ratings for Stefan Bajcetic in that case?
Yeah,
in your head's what?
My head says my head is 4 to 6. My heart says 6 to 8 because I agree with the intangible aspect of his impact. He says, he comes out of nowhere during a time where Henderson and Fabinho are playing to championship levels, and he shores us up during a really turbulent time. Yeah, and he had that spark, and he's given us reasons to feel good about the internal midfield rebuild this summer as well as the external. So yeah, if you guys want to do 6 to 8, I'll go with it because
Conroy, where do you want to go?
I just think because as Keith said, he came out of nowhere, and just on that basis, like the perspective of what you expect from him is such a surprise that I would, judging it on that the circumstances, I'd go for 6 to 8. I feel like yes, it's the season, but I just feel like he came out of nowhere, and I think Keith's point is I agree with Keith on that. I think 6 to 8 for me, just because of where he came from. No one saw that coming. You not think going into next season that he's put his hat in the ring for that position, so I think he's done very well.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Not the biggest fan. I love him. He's a Liverpool player. He's young. Hopefully, he's got a great future ahead of him. I don't rate him as highly as many others, but that's just me. Who gives a shit what I think? But even I have to say, after saying that, even I have to say, for me, he's a 6 to 8, just for the fact that the impact that he had on the team, especially as we've discussed, the worst Liverpool team at the worst time, the most dysfunctional, all of that, he still stood out. For that, he gets a 6 to 8 for me, and I think that wins the poll for that, so that doesn't get a question. Calvin Ramsey is Stefan Bejitic, people. Latecomers, do not have a fit. By the way, update on the Salah poll, it's 59-41. 59 in favor of 8 to 10 at the moment. So let's see how it goes, unless we need another poll.
Stop the count.
No. The poll stops until the next poll is due, if you know what I mean. Like if there's another need for another poll.
Okay.
We have Gakpo left. Who gets Gakpo? We all get Gakpo.
I'll take him if nobody wants him.
Yeah, I think it's Evan. Yeah.
Oh, it's Evan, Gakpo.
I'm so glad that I get to talk about my new favorite Liverpool player now that Firmino has officially moved on.
Yeah.
Now the romance.
Hey, this is gonna be a yin yang level of balance between the two. Cody Gakpo has been our signing of the season. He has outperformed Darwin Núñez comfortably. He has come in and been asked to emulate Roberto Firmino in 2 different systems, both in a 4-3-3 and in this new shape. Cody Gakpo is an 8 out of 10. That's our signing of the season. He's come in, and if we're giving Trent all these brownie points for, his resurgence in this new shape and making this Liverpool team click again, I think him and Gakpo have been the face of that. Absolutely. I think Gakpo has had 2 underwhelming performances. One against Wolves, he comes in his debut, he plays on the left when we're just in the trenches, and then as soon as he gets moved into the middle, he's been, I think, a revelation. I think people were foolish to doubt him. This is a guy coming in with pedigree. Yeah, it's from the Eredivisie, but it's still, he's the Eredivisie's best player when he becomes a Liverpool player. I think he's been comfortably better than Firmino. Firmino can't get a sniff in because Cody Gakpo has been playing so well, and we gave Firmino a 6 to 8. Cody Gakpo has been a comfortable level ahead of that. He's been comfortably more effective and more solid than Konate, albeit different responsibilities. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me, comfortably.
Yeah, I like being proven wrong in debate. I like to be proven wrong, and in the football pitch as well. And I hold my hands up and I have to say that I was absolutely 110% wrong. Any videos that you've seen of me talk about Cody Gakpo when we first got him in January in his first couple of games, that Keith, if I saw him now in the street, I'd say, Keith, what were you talking about, mate? You were wrong. You were wrong, because his impact on the Liverpool front three, it's not been seamless. It had its rocky roads to begin with, but we were having our rocky roads as well. But for him to come in, 10 goal contributions this season, and just fits like a glove, whether playing in the centre forward position, whether slipping into the midfield position, scores some really, really nice goals, holds the ball up so well. And all of this, bearing in mind, this is a player who was getting used to the pace of the Premier League. And this is a vitally important aspect, because when Bobby Firmino first came to play for Liverpool, yes, Brendan did play him out of position at times, but he also did suffer a little bit from dealing with the intensity of the Premier League, things going so fast, and you don't have that time on the ball. And I feel like Cody Gakpo has started to click for him already. and that he's doing things with the ball at his feet and being able to control time with the ball in tight, close situations, turn his man, get ahead, get a leg in, do all of that kind of things in his first half of the season, and doing that so well and fitting in so seamlessly. Like what he can potentially achieve going into next season is frightening. He's got all the attributes necessary to be something quite special for Liverpool. And I do actually think, again, signing of the season, and to be signing of the season and to put the performances he's done, you know, I would also have to agree. I think he definitely goes into that 8 to 10 category.
I think I think there's a really strong likelihood a year from now we're sitting here on the same show talking about Cody Gakpo as one of the best players in the league. I'll go on record and say it. I think so.
So Keith sort of acknowledged his misreading of Gakpo. I'm not going to apologize.
You
Conor
should.
McGregor style.
But I'm gonna fight my case. Cody Gakpo, I remember saying that, okay, originally I said the price worries me when he was mooted to be 50-60 million pound player. When we eventually signed him for 35 million pound player, I said, oh, okay, I do like him for 35 million. That makes sense. Then I thought, or we were initially playing him on the wings, either right or left, mainly left. He didn't perform. Anybody who says he was brilliant on the left or on the right, I would disagree with vehemently. Where I will absolutely bow down to we don't bow down, we only bow down to God, but absolutely humble ourselves to the geniuses that is whoever the coach's idea was, whether it was Pep Linders, whether it was Jurgen Klopp's, to deploy him in the role that they have. Wow. That's where absolutely he has come into his own element. He has played wonderfully well in a short space of time. His strength, he's getting stronger, he's getting smarter, he's getting quicker, he's powerful, he's going to get more powerful. His ability to turn on the ball and get away from the defender who's man marking him is pretty scary already. It will only get better. Where I will ask him to improve, oh, by the way, I always said his best quality is his ability to strike the ball, his technique in striking the ball. I still maintain that's his best quality in the goals that he scored. We've seen the few goals that he scored, his striking ball ability. So I prejudged him and I was wrong for that, but I was right because in my head, he was being brought in to play on the wings. I didn't see this genius idea to move him into the Bobby Firmino role. So I absolutely humble myself for that. Klopp and Linders are a humbler, and they've humbled me. He has been magnificent in a short space of time, learning the role, the intricacies of playing the Bobby Firmino role. Wow. He's not quite as fluid, technical, ahead of the game as Bobby, but he's young and he's learning. He's adapted very well in a tough league to adapt to. Where did you look put him?
I said I made the case for 8 to 10 because signing of the season, and I think he's spent 90 to 95% of his minutes on the pitch, being a net positive on this Liverpool team. So I put him in the 8 to 10.
Dominic says, Grizz's football takes this year have been on the wild side. Can you remind me, please? Because it's only fair to just slap me when I'm down. Remind me of my wild takes. And that would be amazing. Callum's, if hopefully that's the right Callum, I'm sure it is. Callum's in the chat. He says, big up brothers, the Sanderson show. He's got his own private YouTube channel. If he has, make sure you go and follow him. If not, coppish other people to go and check out and follow. Massive friends are coppish. Johnny keeps saying, Grizz, it's my birthday today. What do you want me to do? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Happy birthday, Johnny, from everyone at Football Khanage. Hope you had a blessed day. Barbecue would have been ideal today, if not. So what are we doing? 8 to 10? Are we doing 8 to 10, Gakpo? Yeah? Are we unanimous?
That's my vote.
Keith?
Yeah. I agree with Evan on that one.
Conroy.
Don't you dare, Conroy. By the way.
I think earlier I was kind of stuck between because I had him down as either 7.5 or 8 earlier. But then when you actually think about it and you break it down, maybe I know you said two games. I'd maybe say 3 games, 4 games at the start. He definitely had to get used to it. But again, I think that's been incredibly harsh when you can consider he was only signed in January. So I think it has to be at 8 to 10. I think he's been outstanding. I think even when he's not scored or got assists, you could tell his development and link up. And again, as I said earlier, when you compare it to like a Nunez signing, as Evan did earlier, I feel like you can just see how quick he's linked up, and even include Diaz in that comparison as well. Because when we signed Diaz last season, we've always had these conversations about linking up and working with the way the system works. And I just think he's been brilliant. And I think we had worries about, well, we can't replace Bobby Firmino. And I think that's fair that you can't replace him. But I just feel like Gakpo offers so much to this team. And I think he's been brilliant. So 8 to 10 for me.
Phillips, people. Phillips is Gakpo.
Yeah. No, it's not. Not Phillips. 8 to 10. Get him in there.
Right? Before people have a fit.
It doesn't matter, Grizz. They're going to watch it tomorrow, and they're going to.
I know. Well, no, they're only going to see that if they hopefully they listen to the show as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Basically, Phillips is Gakpo. By the way, Salah won 8 to 10. So
to be fair,
I rest my case. Those are the only 2 things I cared about. There we go.
Okay.
Everybody else can be wherever.
If you had this picture as your thumbnail, right, as like the start of the show.
I was about to say, no, that's what I said. I was like, at the start is when Grizz is like, okay, we're going to be substituting some squad players as Gakpo and Bajcetic. I was like, oh, it's going to be crazy out of context.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine using this? I might even use this as a thumbnail.
Yeah.
That's the definition of clickbait. That's the definition of clickbait.
Right? ultimate clickbait. But there you go, people.
Out of context, RedFellas. That's what you should use.
Unbelievable. A couple of super chats before we speak about sort of transfers, impending transfers, and possible news. Dinesh says, "Evening, Grizz. Can you and the panel pick a Liverpool team to take on Klopp's winning Premier League team and manager? Star of the Premier League before Klopp became manager. I will DM you my team." What does he mean? He means sort of. So he means like our version of the best Liverpool team that would rival. Can someone help me?
Yeah, I think
the title winning team.
Yeah, like a before Klopp's time, what Liverpool players would we pick to rival this Liverpool team that won the league?
I don't know, but they're losing. They're losing like 3 or 4 now. I mean, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Dinesh, thank you very much for the generous super chat. I will check my DMs. I will get your team, and then maybe we'll do a show on that. Definitely, that's a great idea for a show, Dinesh. We'll make sure we do that 100%. Thank you for that. Liam says Ibu was integral for the formation change. He absolutely was, and I'm so glad he went up to 8 to 10.
I disagree with this slightly.
There's no way he was not going to be in the same category as Virgil van Dijk. 786 MB Ahmed, who's a very good friend of mine from Slough, says the only 8 to 10 players are Alisson and Salah. Everyone else underperformed big time. Also, Klopp is a 2 to 4, and FSG are 0 to 2. Big up, Grizz. Peace. Jurgen Klopp.
Ooh.
We saying.
We got to go back, and Adrian can be John.
I was gonna say that. Adrian is Jurgen Klopp. People. All right, let's smash this out. Jurgen Klopp. Conroy, you go first.
Yeah, I think we have to look at from where we are, what we've done last season, and I think we're judging on this. I think how many shows did we have where we're complaining about tactical movements or game management? I know if Keith didn't do that on purpose there, but it was probably quite apt time in there. I think for me, I'm going for 2 to 4. I think like just see if we manage to get Champions League, it probably still would have papered over the problems of the season anyway. So I think we need to call it like it is. So 2 to 4 for me.
Oh, and just to add to that, Conroy, I still remember many shows where you were asking the question, what are we even doing? What is our system? Yeah. What is our style of play? You got De Zerbi coming in, you got all these players, and they've got an actual philosophy. We didn't have one. So I'll just back you up on that one. I remember it fondly, those dark nights.
Remember myself, mate. Just wake up screaming patterns they play.
I agree with that, Jurgen. I love you. I hope you retire here. I hope you extend your contract. But that was a 2 to 4 season. he holds some like a good amount of responsibility for how the previous summer's transfer window went. I mean, when it comes down to it, he's the one who didn't think there was anybody better than Bellingham and Jude out there. You know, there were players out there that were in that same category or not that much of a drop off, but he ultimately thought the midfield was fine where it was. It was not fine where it was. It was many, many, many levels below where it needed to be, and we suffered greatly for it. So, yeah, season starts in the summer for him. So I think don't think he had a very good summer, and he was slow to change things. So 2 to 4 feels
unanimously
fair.
2 to 4. 2 to 4 people.
Klopp
That is us.
Klopp season, just one last thing. Klopp season is reminiscent of Fabinho's insofar as at one stage it was very much a 0 to 2, and that last 10-game run when we went 7-2, that
Fair.
saved him.
Fair. Of course, that is the season's ratings. I hope you agreed. If you didn't, tough. Do your own show and do your own ratings. But leave a comment. I'm joking. Leave a comment. Let us know what you disagreed with in the comments below the video when it gets out. Make sure you've liked and you subscribed. People, it's the transfer season. People are impatient. People want transfers signed, sealed, delivered before the transfer window opens, actually, which is next Saturday, I believe. But that's the nature of people. That's the nature of football fans. But some good news on the horizons. Some horizon. How many horizons is there? There's only one horizon. Some good news on the horizon. We are probably announcing our first incoming of the season. That is the very much talked about, chatted about Alexis Mac Allister, formerly of Brighton, soon to be of Liverpool Football Club. People want it to be signed, sealed, delivered, announced. It's going to take its time because that's how football transfers work, especially when you're talking about high-level transfers. Guys, a lot of conjecture about sort of the price range. I was worried when 70 million was being mentioned for Alexis Mac Allister. I don't put him in the 70 million category. I was thinking, if that's our 70 million pound player for this window, yeah, slightly worried, especially knowing that we have a budget to work with. But I believe we will be purchasing Alexis Mac Allister for the figure of 45 million, stroke 50 million. For me, that changes the landscape of the window. For me, it's more onus now on FSG to utilize that to our benefit and make sure we can do the maximum as opposed to the bare minimum. I think 45 million stroke 50 million is a very, very good price for Alexis Mac Allister. Discuss.
Yeah, I'm paying 70 million for Alexis Mac Allister. Great player. But yeah, I think that new quota price in between 40 to 50 million, that's been our sweet spot in seasons gone by. I love those. And yeah, Alexis Mac Allister, I really like you, and I hope you give us some more recognizable patterns of play that we've been crying out for.
Ibrahim makes a very good point, and I compared him to originally when we were linked with him to our very own Gundogan. That would be some emulation if he can achieve anything Gundogan's achieved at Brighton. Conroy, you happy with this?
It's a really good comparison, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe too good a comparison, as we said last week, Evan. Thankfully, he scored yesterday, so hopefully he'll sign a new contract and City will not be looking for a replacement. Yeah, I think Mac Allister, we've heard this before, I think he has got a higher ceiling. I think he could get to a different level, and I'd be buzzing if we got him, to be honest. And for 45 million especially, I think it's a bit of a bargain. And it allows us to get others in with the funds. We know the way we're ran. We don't have this like treasure chest to use. So I think, yeah, it would be an absolute great deal. And if we can get that over the line, as Evan said, that's our sweet spot. Gakpo and Mac Allister within 6 months of each other for those prices. And that's
we're going to talk about this because we've been criticised a lot recently. And we've been critical as well on our shows.
Absolutely.
But we will wait another few weeks before all business is concluded. And I think we will be back on the train of, we've done some great business, Summer. Keith, 45 million, stroke 50 million. It won't be more than that, 100%. Does it change your opinion? Or what was you, or are you of Did Evan say he would have paid 70 million for?
I said I
Oh,
wouldn't
sorry.
have.
Are you on that boat?
For me, 45 for a World Cup winning midfielder that everybody's talking about in a market where everybody in their nan are looking for midfielders. Every top club is looking for a midfielder of his quality. To get him for the price that ultimately is quite similar to what we paid to get Fabinho, and that was like 6 years ago when you factor in inflation and all that kind of stuff. FSG may do a lot wrong, but the one thing that they seem to be Mike Gordon and them guys seem to be very good at is driving a hard bargain when it comes to the price tag. So, you know, for that kind of price, I mean, it's a steal as far as I'm concerned, based on the market economics, and very exciting to have a player of his caliber come into the team. And I'm just looking forward to it. It's great. It's one of the most exciting transfer windows probably we've ever had.
Oh, for sure.
We have no choice but to do business because we've let so many players go. So yeah, exciting times. Can't wait to hear the announcement.
The announcement is probably end of the week, early next week. But for sure, significant journalists will come out with it because the LFC media team has been briefed to be on standby this week, which suggests, you know, the old photos and whatnot. I wanted to present something else before we very, very quickly go. I caused a bit of a stir, it seems, on Twitter by putting a poll out. And just very quickly, we must speak on it because, you know, that's what you do. When you cause a stir, you let people squirm, and you speak on it. I suggested Madrid and PSG will try and lure Salah this summer, I believe. PSG have already made their annual inquiry, which they have. They made it for the last 3 seasons. PSG always ask about Salah. Are we willing to budge? Are we willing to move? Are we willing to budge? We have refused every single time. Salah has refused every single time. We know Salah has signed a long-term contract only last season, which I exclusively broke. I'm now telling you guys that Madrid and PSG are making inquiries on Mohamed Salah. As of this stage, Liverpool have zero intention of selling Mohamed Salah. But I just put out the question, if an offer came for 100 million for a 31-year-old Mohamed Salah, would you sell? 10,600 people have voted so far. It's pretty unanimous. 65% have said no. Are we in the 65% category?
Yes. I'll tell you one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 things, just 2 things. One, he's in legacy era now. You know, he's in legacy mode. I believe that he knows there's still a few more records to hit. It would just be nice for us to have a similar moment that we've had with a Steven Gerrard. Have one of our legends see it out to the point of his best years at our club. I would really like to see that. I just don't see, even if the 100 million comes in, where we're going to find a player of his caliber in that position at this moment in time, because a lot of clubs have really wrapped up those type of players. My second thing is, I've got a real eye on what the Saudi league are doing at this moment in time, right? And I really do, because at the end of the day, it's 100 million today for PSG and Madrid are putting in. Don't think that if Salah did want to finally, after a while, say, do you know what, I'm going to go and get that final payday, that Liverpool could not also benefit from that final payday and actually get a big bid.
Keith, I agree with you. But I think it's fair to say Salah is at least 2 years, at least the very minimum 2 years away from that stage.
Exactly. And how long is his contract with us still? It's 3, right?
Yeah, he's got another 3 years left.
3 years. So even 2 years in, and he's into his last year of his contract, I still think silly money could come in that level. So that's why, from a seller's perspective, I don't think we need the money, because I still think the money can still come in if that time does come in a couple of years. So that's the money aspect. And the personal aspect is, I still think he's got a legacy to fulfill at Liverpool. He is now in legendary status.
Case closed, guys. Not much to talk about then. Thanks for inquiring. Thanks for asking. But on your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead, Conroy.
No, I was just going to say, just to add, I think the thing is, you know, you look at that money, but nowadays it's like, what I've just said about Salah, we've had a debate, but ultimately his goal scoring ability and his effectiveness for the team is never in doubt. Like, you always, you know, have averaging 20 goals a season in the Premier League. You can't really buy that. Like you'd still be taking a gamble to a certain extent. And I feel like, as Keith said, look at the numbers for Benzema today, like going to the Saudi. So in a couple of years, if you are looking to maybe get some sort of budget towards trying to replace him, which we probably shouldn't, you could probably just, he's done enough to just leave on his own terms. There will be offers there. But I think the idea that you could get a few players, I've seen a few suggestions. I just think it's too much of a gamble anyway. And I feel like to get someone who can get those amount of goals each season is rare. So you want to hold on to him as long as you can.
Darius sends in a super chat, says Real are apparently getting Jude, inquiring for Bobby. To sell Salah would be to admit that LFC is a stepping stone club to Real Madrid. That has to change. Not quite, because I'd argue that Mohamed Salah has had his peak shows era at Liverpool. So I wouldn't call it a stepping stone, and especially for Bobby. Bobby and Salah wouldn't indicate that we're stepping stones. If, for example,
Trent
went to Real Madrid, then you could put that argument forward. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there, guys. I think we've covered everything and anything. And if there is anything else that comes to mind, remind me now, or forever keep your peace and silence. Bilal says, great show, lads. Quality all around. People subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you very much for the kind words. I haven't checked my subscribers. Hopefully they've gone up by 2 or 3 at the very least. The like should be at least over 50%. I usually go for about 60% likes, but it's hard these days. It's very hard to get everyone on board and on your side. Listen, it's been wonderful. It's been amazing. Don't forget our channel sponsors, not only RedFellas sponsors, but our channel sponsors now going into the season and going into the end of the year. yourfutcard.com. Use the code RedFellas for a 15% discount. Go and check them out. Our trainer says, great show, guys. We agree. We absolutely agree. I love chatting to these guys. I don't think they really like chatting to me that much, but it is what it is. They got to do what they got to do. This has been, I was going to say Football Khanage. This has been RedFellas. Bloody hell, I've been doing too many shows this week. Over and out. Until next time. Peace.